All right, Harn Nation, welcome to edition 4 of the Win the Day Harness podcast. I'm here with my business partners, the one and only Bo Folkinga, the exceptional and handsome Hunter Lee, and then our fearless leader, Mr. Dan Dunn himself. So we got Dan on the podcast, obviously today's special guest. So I want to dive right in with a specific question, man. A question that I know we've talked to you about multiple different times, but what was it that made you start harness in the first place? Like, how did we all end up here?
That's a great question. It's a great question. So I think I've mentioned this many times. Elon fired us all at once, so I was actually a huge Tesla proponent. Guy. Super nice guy. Wanted to replace us all with machines, and upon firing, I was left with the disillusionment of having been so bought into that brand and that movement. But also, it was a trip to Yosemite almost immediately after. I went there, got clear, one of the most beautiful places on earth. You're surrounded by things much larger than you. And I think that really spurned the thought for creating my own thing, honestly. I was called the Valley of the Gods, I believe. And
it's actually called the Valley of the Gods? Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
It's my favorite place on earth, really, besides Edinburgh, Scotland. I need to get back up there. Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. I love Yosemite.
Yeah, so anyway, an advertisement that came to my mind while I was there, I didn't see it while I was there, but it came to my mind retroactively, is Tesla actually had an advertisement for their batteries. Their Powerwalls were just coming out, and it said, harness the power of the sun in the battery. And it wasn't a trademark infringement. It wasn't a copyright infringement. I just thought that was a cool word.
Disclaimer.
Harness.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, exactly.
Side note there.
Cool word for a company. Harness power. So I just thought that was the move. It was the next move, and also it was built on the desire that I saw this niche in the market, the desire to fill that niche, which is that there was a ton of experienced solar reps at the time that were underpaid and underutilized. They were continuing to go to these hype meetings, but not really getting a ton out of it because the meetings were built more towards just the new rep. So I wanted to create a home for adult solar, and I will claim that I started that phrase.
I believe you did coin that.
Many have said it since, but I started it back in 2017, and it, again, was for experienced reps only at first. That's how Harness grew. We grafted in a bunch of experienced reps from other companies. We all knew what we were doing. It was a very loose culture at first, but very refined in terms of the experience. And I wanted to create the best platform for that specific group of individuals. And I believe we did that for the first, couple years, but it kind of organically grew because more and more reps in the industry heard about it. And we never went after growth aggressively, actually by design, because I wanted to make sure that the foundation was built correctly. Bo remembers from the early days that I would show a picture of Kevin Costner, Field of Dreams, and that was like our clarion call. It's, if you build it, they will come. So we took our time building it slowly, not getting too greedy like a lot of people do. And we feel extremely good about having done that.
That was one of the initial things that attracted me to Harness, was just how slow but steadily you've built, and building the right way versus just building for the sake of building and growth and more profits. So, well, thank you, Mr. Dunn. Question on that, Bo, man, how has the company changed since day one? Dan referenced your kind of first day. What does the company look like now versus what it looks like then? Or, I'm sorry, what it looked like then versus what it looks like now?
Oh man, totally different, man. Like I'd say, like it ate a Mario mushroom, because a lot of the same foundations and mindsets there. A lot of the same qualities and values are still there. But as far as like our growth mindset and how many people we want to serve now that the model's dialed is totally different. I think the very beginning, my team got to meet in parks and Starbucks, and my guys were...
You were living out of a van.
Down by the river.
Hey, he did not want that back.
No, this is the coolest thing. We're totally different people now, like 2 years later. Like you were in a van, and you were living a life that was definitely more... No, I'm not saying that was his only home. He had a home. But he was definitely more about that van life, and now Bo is 100% like a different dude. It's really cool to see. I just wanted to chime in there.
I appreciate that, Dan.
You've grown a ton.
I appreciate that. little knock him down to build him up type.
Listen, you got to keep the van as a relic.
I Live in a Van by Afro Man. That was a classic song.
Yeah.
The back of a Chevrolet van.
Yeah,
oh yeah. Anywho. That's right, dude. Somewhere new.
So
Stop
from
there.
from van life to now on top of a mountain, how has everything evolved for you?
Man, it's just been, like we said, slow and steady. You know, little by little, getting the Harn House was a big move. You know, getting some brick and mortars, and you know, the company was so lean, and you know, new hire training didn't exist because everybody that came was experienced. We didn't have to have meetings or you know, Zoom calls, and it was just kind of like, you know, very open. We called it the Harn Life, and then we've done a good job, I think, of refining what the Harn Life means. You
It's
know,
definitely evolved even since I merged.
yeah, the Harn Life doesn't mean, you know, don't work, don't grow, you know, just relax and make, you know, dealer quality money. It means, you know, work for a company that wants the best version of you and wants the best, and you want the best version of yourself, and having a pathway and a vehicle to get there that isn't overarching or takes away from your quality of life and your ability to live a good fulfilled life and do things you need to do to recover and keep your stoke tank full, with a clarity on making sure people don't have burnout, don't run the well dry, and always have something to shoot for, whether it's in their personal life or growth model within the business. So it's been amazing, not only for obviously myself and but the people. You know, we have guys like Matt Ruggia and Joe DeMarco that have been here from the day that I got here, and I think they can attest. I think they have each. We've had them both on the podcast, of to exactly, you know, the progression and just the feel that we have now. We feel like we're doing something special. I think that before, it was like a slave getting the chains cut at first, and you don't really know what to do. It's like Talladega Nights, like, what do I do with my hands? And now we have more of a direction. You know, now we're swinging hammers, building a monument. I think that we want to welcome more people into. We want more help building, but we have a lot more direction and focus on, you know, where we're going, and more confidence that we can get there. We're starting to see the structure and the framework being built of the building, and that's just super exciting. We all want to be warm and cozy in that building someday, and it takes all of us to build. So I think feeling a unity around that exact thing is huge.
It's a good description of it, man. You mentioned stoke tank. And stoke is, I mean, it's a word I casually used really my whole life, because I think I always wanted to be a surfer, even if it was subconscious at first. But how would you define stoke tank?
Why not?
Just for the uninitiated, you know?
How many gallons is your stoke tank?
Bunch
All right, so what is the stoke tank, and how many gallons are in Bo's stoke tank?
Man, I feel like I got a couple 100 gallons of
Miles per gallon average.
That's like a space shuttle sized stoke tank.
it's a big reserve on a boat, big boat, you know.
Super big boat.
I say yacht.
Yeah, yes, I can. From living in the back of the van to yacht life is a reality here at Harness. Stoke tank, man, it's.
I think that's the title of your book.
Yeah.
Van life to yacht life.
Yes. So, written by Bo Fulkinga, audited by Matthew McConaughey.
But in the acknowledgments, there's a few special people that are mentioned in there. Some work here, some don't.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. The stoke tank, man, is super important. I think just you're the opposite of feeling burnt out. Like you feel amazing. You feel good. You feel enthralled. You know, being when you're stoked, when you're coming down a great wave, when you're out with your buddies, or when you're, you know, enjoying a win in work, or, you know, climbing a big mountain together, a hill or a challenge, like the feeling of euphoria that you get when you're on the top of that mountain, or you know, when you claim a big wave, or even when your buddy claims a big wave. We talk about that a lot, when you see somebody's head disappear, and you know they're right on the right side. You get to watch them score, and it raises your stoke tank. So, you know, it's not just personal development and recovery, even though that does have a lot to do with it, whether it's playing golf or surfing or doing things that make you feel good, getting a good massage, eating a good dinner, you know, getting a good workout in the morning, like whatever makes it you feel like you have a cup worth pouring out of.
It's almost like elevated by passion with purpose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 'Cause there's always something more behind it. It's not just like, oh, I had a nice shot or I caught a nice wave. Like, if you love surfing, it's more than just about the wave. It's about the conquering, the feat that you just conquered.
For sure, and a good jump shot in a 40-point blowout doesn't feel as good. It's
But
more-
when to hit the game win, then that's purpose and passion.
That's where it all encapsulates, or riding that same wave, or down a ski hill with a champion. Like going out to Park City and snowboarding with Landon last year as a tip of the cap to him as our top installer last year. Like that's where the two meet each other. Like, hey man, great job on your tremendous year, way to be number one, congratulations. And then we go and do something that feels the adrenaline version of that stuff as well, and that is
Stoke tank.
that is the stoke tank. And when your stoke tank's full, you can pour out into other people, and I think too many people in this industry and in this business try to pour out of an empty stoke tank, and their words.
And a feat impossible by default.
Yes, and or they have bad gas in there, like their fuel fuels them as bad. I love my references. I love my.
I love your gas, your good gas versus bad gas reference.
It's true. If you know anything about engines, if you're dirt bikes, if you run old motors, like engines and motors on good gas will run way longer. The number one way to kill good engines is by putting bad gas in it. And I think some people are motivated or stoked by bad things, by negativity, by growth by any means necessary. Growth by not treating people right. And I think a lot of people in this industry, that's truly what gets them stoked. That's their passion, is more money, more dominance, and not so much in people. And they pour that into other people. And I think that's where people get disenfranchised or disenchanted when they come into the industry, and their leader, the person that they're reporting to, is pouring into them what makes them happy, what motivates them. And I think it's important to identify and isolate. And I think we do a great job of this here at Harness, and our leaders do an amazing job of identifying what somebody's stoke tank is, like what motivates them. I don't want to give you I don't want to assume that what motivates me motivates you, and taking the time to really figure that out for each individual person, and checking the dipstick. Look at the fuel gauge. Is it empty? Is it full? How can I get their stoke tank back up? If I want them to be a team lead, or if I want to be them to be the best version of themselves, that thing has to be topped off, and make sure that it's the fuel that their engine runs on. To be clear, so
stoke tank's obviously one of them, but what else do you think separates Harness from every other company in the industry?
That's a good question. I always say that our greatest asset, and it's a bad word to use for people, but our greatest asset is our people. I would say more appropriately, the term should be our greatest value is our people. And I think that's proprietary, honestly. I think any company's people is proprietary to that company, and the people are a direct reflection of, you attract who you are on the inside. So you're attracting basically the value system that you have, all the filters that you use in your brain to filter what's good and bad, and what is worthy of your attention, what's not worthy of your attention. That's all manifested in the people that you attract into the company. So I think we've done a fantastic job attracting good people worthy of pouring into, people worthy of being here, making the kind of money they make, and associating mutually. I think that's one of our best qualities as a company. So I'll start there. I think the second advantage we have in the marketplace is we're forward thinking, and we're taking strides right now at this moment to make sure that we are ahead of the curve in the industry. 2021 brought some interesting dynamics to the industry where EPC partners, or installation partners more commonly known, they tried to recruit sales reps or managers from larger companies and just have them work direct. And they would do that in exchange for 10, 20, 30 cents extra per watt. And it seems attractive to those individuals, of course, because you feel like you're making more money. But what ended up happening is it diluted the industry's value, because they weren't telling them up front that this is actually what they do with companies, not with individuals. So they tried to open it up to get more sales. They got a little more greedy, I think, or of course there are other reasons. But ultimately what it did is should I use the word cuckold? I don't think I should. It definitely pulled the wool over their eyes on what the reality of that dynamic would be.
As if they were cuckolded.
Yes. If I'm an installation partner and I just hired on, And I just hired on a salesperson. We can always censor this.
Nothing's getting censored there. Let's go.
And I just hired on a salesperson. I learned that from Shakespeare, by the way. That's from Othello. Thank you very
If
much.
Shakespeare said it, I mean, that guy was on to something.
Exactly. It's all in the public domain. So anyway, I'm a salesperson. I just went straight into a direct relationship with an EPC partner or an installation partner. What I did not know is now I have to be responsible for payroll, HR, onboarding and offboarding, swag, logos, website designs. I mean, we spent 10 grand on our website this year, all kinds of stuff, insurances, HR, yeah, I mean, legal, bookkeeping, taxes, everything. So it's a business. And certainly most sales reps didn't know that. They find quickly, as many have, and they've come kind of back to us for this reason, they find that they had no business being in business for themselves yet because they were still learning how to be great salespeople and great managers.
So what would be the difference between a great salesperson or manager or leader and a great business person?
It's a whole separate skill set, man. I mean, when I was a manager, which was back in 2003 for the first time, I sucked. As many know my story. I sucked for 3 years straight. I was bad. I was bad, and I was promoted because I was a good salesperson. That was the practice of my company, which is typical of most door-to-door companies. Yeah. So I was a great salesperson. They're like, great, you're good at leadership too, I'm sure. No. And the reason why is because being responsible for yourself on the doors and your production is one thing. Now you're responsible for the people who are responsible for the production and the sales, and that's a whole different thing. And to be responsible for people other than yourself, your intrinsic action, your first action is to treat them just like you treated yourself, because that's what you're used to.
I made that same exact mistake.
Everybody makes the mistake. So I made that mistake, unfortunately, for 3 years in a row. I lost a lot of my team in the process, and I just had to learn by butting my head against that wall how to empathize, how to get in there and dig deep and learn how to interact with people that didn't have my personality, didn't have my same belief systems, didn't have my same drive. All that stuff came to fruition. So that's from level 1 as a rep to level 2 as a manager. Then above that, if you're going to business owner, first you should probably get to regional. You should before you go to business owner, and then most likely you should climb a little bit and go to VP or something before you hop straight into business ownership. Because business ownership, you never had to do all the stuff I just mentioned: HR, legal, bookkeeping, taxes, all that stuff. You didn't have to do any of it before. Now you have to do that on top of all the other stuff if you want to keep being involved in the day-to-day operations of selling.
So you better be darn good at that first stuff before you move on to the second skill.
Yeah, and I'm just saying you're lying to yourself. If let's say I'm a manager right now and my team's doing 20 installs and I decide, I'm gonna go start my own dealership and make 20 cents a watt more or whatever, right? You're lying to yourself. You're not gonna have the same amount of time to put into the sales you're currently making, and the team is not going to make the current amount of sales they're making with the structure you have at this larger corporation that's more built out, or even a medium-sized one. Then you going off starting your own thing, you can't just say, I'm going to make the exact same money except 20 cents a watt more. It's not going to happen.
That is the expectation.
It's not going to happen, and it is. Yeah, we trick ourselves into believing that. It's not going to happen. You're not going to have time. I told one dealer this year actually that went and started his own, or was going to, I should say, what was involved in my day-to-day life. Running a business, and I wasn't trying to scare him. I told him straight up, like, hey, I'm not discouraging you from doing this. I did it. Like, everybody deserves to do it if they want to do it. But you should know eyes wide open what's involved on a day-to-day basis. I'm stuck behind a computer most days. I work 12 to 14-hour days behind a computer. It's not very inspiring. It's a lot of menial, tough decision making every single day. It never stops. It's all on you. You're responsible for everything. You've got to know how to work with every type of personality, the dynamics between you and the back office and the sales. Like, you just have to know so much more. And if you haven't at least gotten to a regional position and been there for at least a year or two, I think, you have no business being in business for yourself or for other people. They deserve better.
The industry has changed from when you started your dealer as opposed to where we're at now?
Big time.
How so?
When I started my dealer, this dynamic of 2021 didn't exist, where they were like taking everybody on. They had they had standards. You had to at least be doing 20, 25 installs a month as a group, which is still a low barrier of entry, but they still had some of those standards at least. The market wasn't as dynamic as it is now with all these people having started their own. So I was able to build slowly, like we talked about, and not feel as aggressive in the recruiting aspect of it. I think it was just more unique to have a dealership that was well run. Now, since there's so many brands and dealers out there, it's going to be tough. If you want to start your own dealership in 2022, you're going to have to compete and become unique. How different are you now that you're just another Bright Planet or Freedom Forever dealer? Like, what's the difference then between you and the others? There's no difference. That means you're gonna have to compete on price. You're gonna have to just take less margin and try to like drive that race to the bottom on Redline, which is not fun for anybody.
Which leaves less health and income to invest in lead gen, to invest in swag and incentives and stuff. It's whittling down the exact thing that so many reps and people in the dealer model are just gasping for.
And this is what I didn't understand as a rep. I didn't understand how business worked. Of course, I wasn't in it, but I didn't understand that two things. One, I assumed that like people that were behind a desk in the office all day had a cushy job that was easier and they were making all this money for no reason. You always looked at them. Yeah, you're like, oh, that guy doesn't knock doors like I do. I work so hard. Listen, it's just a different type of work. And in fact, as we all know, it takes way more energy, way more molecular energy in your body to do thinking, to make ideas work, to like work through. When your brain's processing, it takes actually a lot more energy. It takes way more energy from your body to have your brain spinning all day making decisions than it does actually to knock doors. And I'm not knocking the knockers because I was there for 15 years. But it's a different kind of energy. It's a different kind of skill set. It's very difficult work. It's just
almost
a different
similar
look.
from going to that salesperson to that business owner. I felt the same because it's a totally different skill set, and just even the best door-to-door people, it's tough to transition.
Yeah.
Just because you're great at right-handed things doesn't mean you're gonna be great at left-handed things when you have to learn them, because it feels unnatural. You know?
So that's my first point. And then the second point is this lone wolf mentality, where I don't need the team, I need to go out, I can do this on my own and I can make this money, I've got the skill set to do that. I think a lot of people do that and maybe it works for some, but there's something about being a part of something bigger and being on a team and having the structure. It's more exciting, it's more inspiring, it's gonna push you to do more. And to give up 20 or 30 cents a watt is worth it in a lot of people's minds. You just have to consider that before you go try to branch out and be that lone wolf. They always want to come back to the pack eventually, and we've seen that with many of our people and in the industry at large.
I've noticed it's not just about the dollar that you make, it's about the quality of the dollar. Meaning like what you had to put in to get that dollar. You know what I mean? 500 grand and 500 grand doing two totally different jobs, it's not the same amount of money. It's really not. If you had to kill yourself and do something you hate for 500 G's over here versus something that you love, and maybe even work a little bit harder because you maybe got to sell more deals to be a part of that team and make that 500K, but this one's going to be twice as rewarding potentially if you're part of the right team.
Like you said earlier about Stoke Take, man, like if you made it by yourself as a sole dealer and you got some ads, you went on Solar Exclusive, you bought a bunch of stuff, who are you celebrating that with? Who else is winning? Like you said, it feels so hollow.
And how many people have you impacted with that? How many people have you brought with you?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and we're all speaking from experience, obviously, and I had my own little dealer as well for a little while, so it's not like I haven't tried what you're talking about. And Hunter did as well. And there's a reason why we ended up merging my company with Harness. There's a reason why Hunter ended up here is because we resonate, I think, and believe exactly what Dan's mentioning. It's interesting. Everybody has to go on their own journey to figure that out.
Yeah.
You know, and some people are going to listen to this and like, oh, that makes sense, and they might actually listen to the words of the 50 years plus of experience sitting around this table, but other people might listen to it and be like, no, they don't know what they're talking about. All 50 years of experience at the table is wrong. Every one of them. So you never know. You got to go on your own journey, right? But what about Hunty? Let's talk about you. Let's talk about your journey, right? So you experienced so much in the industry. What was it about Harness that brought you into our table through our door?
That's a great question.
What did it? Other than Bo Stoke Tank.
Other than Bo Stoke Tank, which honestly is what opened the door. Hey dog, we're neighbors. Let's go surf. So
We're rad, bro.
we're super cool.
Hey, man, I got an extra seat in my van, bro.
Right next to Afroman. No, it was actually interesting how the story of me coming to Harness. I feel like had it had been a year sooner, the conversations, I wouldn't be at this table with you guys right now. So for that, I'm grateful.
Timing, right? Gotta go on your
Timing.
journey.
Yeah, it was just like you said 30 seconds ago. There's lessons that people have to learn. And I fortunately had learned that lesson prior to my harness experience, and I found my forever home, for which I'm grateful. But Dan nailed it. He said people are the biggest assets. But one of my lessons that I've had to learn in my door-to-door career was that, we're all attracted. We're all here initially. We all started in door-to-door sales because of the dollar, right? The dollar is what brought us in, but there's other facets that keep us. And for me, having to learn what facet keeps me at an organization the most, the longest, long-term vision is the people.
Yeah, you come for the comp, you stay for the culture.
You just need to make that up. That's really good. Come for the comp, stay for the culture. So yeah, Bo just hit me up. We went surfing, and then I think actually Dan, I think you reached out first, actually, in Facebook Messenger. And I remember telling my wife.
Because Dan was the one who set up the surf, right? I think Dan said, I want you guys to go surfing with Hunter.
Yeah, I believe
right.
so.
Bo
Yeah.
went surfing and I couldn't,
Yeah, and so now he gets the credit. Here we go again.
It's always happening.
No, so yeah, obviously having started my dealer and going down that route and thinking naively that that extra 30 cents would just mean more money, and then learning really quickly that that's not the case. I met Bo, met you, and then meeting Dan, I realized that I am going to be rubbing shoulders with individuals that have likewise learned that same lesson, and I can lean off to for experience, and they've kind of gotten over the hurdle of the, you talk about it a lot, like the 30 plus account, 30 accounts per month hurdle, and you guys had a long-term vision and were growing, and the business acumen and just the intelligence of, and the experience, the tenureship of everybody in the organization. I was like, these are people I can hitch my wagon to and feel concrete that I'm going to be successful as long as I stay within arm's reach of these gentlemen. And then once I made that decision, it was great. Then it was the culture, the surf culture that we have here at Harness. And speaking from a sales perspective as well, it's the product that we bring to market. I believe I texted you a month ago, and I was like, in years and years of selling solar and the variety of products, PPAs, leases, escalators, whatever, loan offerings, I was like, what we do at Harness on top of that is unlike anything I've ever seen. With things I won't speak to I don't want to go too much into detail. It was it's the value I bring to the referrals that I get is fun. So all that combined has
We've
made
got some
Harness.
secret sauces.
There are some secret sauces.
We won't disclose. You'll have to come
No.
inside and find out.
But it makes the sales rep's job phenomenal.
You mentioned something interesting as well, that everybody has to learn their lesson.
Yeah, I like
Right,
that.
and I've noticed that something that I've seen, I learned actually from a lesson, right? The lesson I learned was people that were having the most success were the ones that didn't have to learn the lessons the hard way.
Right.
Because I was always the guy who had to learn the lesson the hard way. Now I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to fail 10 times and try to bull my way through the wall. Then I saw all these other people that weren't quite as talented and didn't even have as much skill or maybe even experience than myself at that point, exceeding my speed. And it was because they were learning lessons from other people, like people listening to this podcast, potentially being able to learn lessons from what we're saying, as opposed to, no, I'm going to go out and figure it out on my own and do things the hard way for years. For sure. Like, there's something to be said about the people that just learn the lessons from other people. They don't have to learn it themselves the hard way.
Totally.
The easy way is to learn from other people's lessons as well.
It's super easy that way, but it's not as concrete in you. And
See, some have to be learned the hard way.
You have to
right?
learn it,
But
you know?
if you can get really good at learning things the easy way, it can really kind of add nitrous to your career,
Right.
I've noticed.
I agree 100%. I was thinking the same thing. Like, it's the road signs that are,
Like, I don't want to learn every hard lesson myself. You know?
Yeah.
Somebody teach me.
it's the road signs and the indicators. Like, warning, there's, slow down around this curve. It's like, nah, I'm going to go 40 miles an hour. You go flying off the cliff and crash and burn.
Life's too short for that.
For sure. And I think that there's so much resources, before anybody does go become their own dealer or encourage, like, go do the homework, just like any other big decision you make, go see what it's about. Go talk to people who've walked the walk. I'd be like a, first day rep on the doors, like not doing any homework, not doing any Google research, not looking up their market, not talking to top performers, and just going out there and banging on doors. And then 2 months later coming back and like, door to door sucks. Like, there's nothing here for you. It's like, well, you didn't pay attention to the information you had at your hand. I love that point, though.
Agreed. Dan, what would you tell a rep looking to, what would you tell a rep starting in this industry? What would you, if you had 5 minutes with them, or if they had, we'll use a Milet question. If they had 3 minutes in a Starbucks with you, what would you tell them?
The pressure's on.
Pumpkin spice lattes.
Yeah, nice. Oat milk. 3 minutes, that's tough. I think I would start with some of my favorite axioms, which is that to be in this industry and survive, apathy is the enemy. You have to be able to get over the natural defense mechanism we all have in our body to maybe not care enough about the job, because you're going to face a ton of rejection. I don't even call it rejection anymore, but it'll seem like rejection at first.
What would you call it?
After a while, you'll see it as opportunity. You'll literally flip it on its head and you'll see like all those no's, all those people saying whatever. You can learn from all of them, but eventually it's just a numbers game and you can just, you just know you're closer to the yes. And that's obviously something that everybody says in the industry all the time, but it's true. So I would definitely hit on that first. I would tell them to find magic in the mundane, as I always say, because you're going to be out there on your own. It's going to feel lonely sometimes, but you can stay connected to your team if you're on a team with a company.
What was your loneliest moment on the doors?
It was in Kentucky, man.
You know right away.
I know exactly.
Without being...
Yep. Working alarms with Vivint. I was in Kentucky, dropped off in a weird neighborhood.
Dude, I was getting dropped off in Kentucky a few years later too. It's the worst.
Louisville, Kentucky. And I was just getting some weird responses all day long.
Kentucky's a weird market.
It started raining, like pouring out of nowhere, thunderstorm. Thought I was gonna get struck by lightning. It was like heavy, heavy downpour. I was on a porch, actually on a corner. I know exactly, I can feel it right now. I was on a corner.
You feel it. Oh.
I can. Cars were passing by, and I didn't have a car to go to, so I was just on some random person's porch. Luckily they weren't home, so I was just camped out.
I remember those days.
20, 30 minutes just waiting. And I was like, what am I doing in life right now? You just have that question, right?
So much better than this.
Yeah, I belong somewhere else, anywhere but here.
Yeah, right.
But then literally that day, it was during the Cup competition, which they had, it was a big competition. I worked till 12 midnight that night because we just did that. We were in houses till midnight. Ridiculous. Like if I was a homeowner, I'd never allow that to happen, or at least I think so.
But so many do, which is crazy. It sounds wild, but it's like,
Oh, it's so weird.
it's like, are you gonna be home at 11? They're like, yeah. You're like,
Exactly. It's the talent that gets you in the door. So anyway, I sold 2 anyway that day, and as you know, it's decent commission, and turned that day into something. And I was just taught so many times over and over and over that no matter how many slumps you have, no matter how many questions that come up in your day about what you're doing and where you're going and all that stuff, what's critical to remind yourself of is you're here for a reason. If your 5-year plan is sound and you've broken it down into week by week, month by month, quarter by quarter, year by year, then that's going to carry you through every single time. So my purpose always carried me through those moments, but you'll still have them.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Speaking of big companies, I'll give you this one, Hunty. What would you tell some rep who's been in the industry, had some success, and is looking to potentially leave a big company? Maybe go off on a road, as Dan mentioned, to start their own dealer, or looking to get into the dealer world, or just looking for a better opportunity to increase commissions?
It's a great question, and Dan answered that when we were just chatting before the podcast. And I would encourage those reps to just really self-reflect, really ask themselves, and what are your strengths? What are your skill sets? Be very real with yourself. Can you go out and sell 3 to 5 solar accounts in a day and get all this hype on your company GroupMe and win a competition and advance through the ranks of leaderships? Like you can, fantastic. That doesn't apply to running a business, like you were saying. And so I'd ask them, like, just be very real with yourself and understand that just because, like we said before, you're going to leave and go do your own thing and you have your team of 20 guys and you're guaranteed this many installs per month, just because you're going to get a couple $100 more a kilowatt, it doesn't mean you're going to make any more money.
I actually want to, I'm going to piggyback on that really quick, because you asked the question earlier, what separates Harness from other companies? Yeah. One of our biggest secret sauces is that the 4 men around this table have all had a combined experience of like 50 years, like you said. 20 years for myself alone. And I actually don't know any other company. Did you flex
your experience on us?
Hey, listen, I don't know any other company. I'm not tooting my own horn or our horns collectively, but I don't know any other company that's had that much door-to-door experience in the actual executive team.
Right. True.
Is there any other solar company where the owner of that company knocked for 20 years straight? I don't know them. Is there any other solar company that the 2 VPs knocked for 10 plus years? Like, I'm sorry, I just don't see it. And I think that's a huge, huge help to our reps and our leaders, because we've been there. Right. There are literally solar companies out there where the owners have not knocked a single solar door. Yeah. I won't mention their names, but they know who they are. Like and I'm calling you out.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Somebody might be speaking at Door to Door Con, I heard.
No, let's not go there.
Or if they have sold, it's a different product. It's in a sense that, so.
Yeah.
I think to expound on that too, man, like everybody thinks of what's in it for them when they go to switch a company.
Right.
What can I get? I have these people, they assume that,
They follow me.
yeah, I'm their leader.
Right.
It's like they're their leader based on who you are, for sure. And most people overestimate or double down on that. Oh, they're in it for me. They'll do wherever I go, they'll go. It's like, well, that was the case, but you were in a functional situation. Like if they're still following you, there was something about the company, whether you liked that company, whether they pissed you off or didn't pay you an override you deserve, they did something to get them in the door, to make them believe in the company, the jersey that they wore, and the value that was added from that company. So I'd be very critical on like, what was my value add? And is my value add because I'm gonna take on more, I'm gonna do more tax stuff, I'm gonna do more insurance. I'm gonna order the swag. I'm gonna do things that I'm not currently doing. Does all that value build up to what I think I'm gonna get, the override that I think I deserve? Am I gonna provide that much value for my people? Is it gonna? How is their opportunity look? How does their field look? How many people are gonna gravitate to this? How many people are gonna go home and tell, not because of their earning potential, because you open up this new pay scale, because you have so much more money to throw at? Like how many people are inspired to go talk to people? Whether you paid them money for recruiting or not, whether they get an override off somebody, whether it's a downline play, MLM scheme, if they didn't get any money, are they still as happy? Are they still as stoked about their job and the vision and where you guys are going together? And I think all too often people get these goggles of, I have blind follow shit.
What can they do for me versus what can I do for them?
Basically, don't be a sociopath. Like if you're going to go start your own dealership, care and tremendously about the people that are coming along with you, or else, I mean, there are consequences, personal consequences, of course, and reputation is everything in this industry. So if you understand you are taking a personal risk to have people follow you, and you better feel the weight of that decision because the consequences are so much more dire if it goes wrong.
For sure. You asked me earlier, like how it was coming over to Harness, and there was a month and a half. I remember, I think March to I think mid-April, everybody finally got a check, and I came over with 3, 4 guys, 5 guys. It wasn't a big crew, but it was heavy on my shoulders, man. Like, did I make the right call? These guys followed me, some of which were making good money at the previous employer, and it get every day, man, heavy on my heart. Like I worked my heart like as hard as I could those first 45 days to ensure, like, once they got a couple of good paychecks, once I proved the model worked, like it was a big sigh. I remember that day specifically, that payroll where everybody made a good money, and it was finally like, okay, this works. Now from now on, you guys can either use it.
Happy days. That's a good one.
How long ago was that, Bo? 2 years?
What, been 3 years now?
Almost 3 years?
Coming on 3 years.
And look where you've come, dude. Because you cared about people, because you bought into the vision of not yourself becoming elevated, but your people becoming elevated, now you're going to be, as of next month, a president of a company. That's insane.
And I believe in that, and I also believe if you're going to make the right decision, you have to figure out if you're an actual leader or not. And a simple way that I learned to do that a while back was if you write down all your thoughts and actions, right? And then if more than 50% of them aren't about your people and aren't for your people, not quite a leader yet. Meaning 50% or 50+% of your thoughts and actions should be about and for your people.
Things you want to change.
Right. If there's still 60-40 and most of the stuff you do is for you and your benefit and your sales, this, that, and the other thing, not quite there yet on the leadership scale. And you're probably not even capable of making that decision on an accurate or in an accurate way yet, right?
100% agree.
Something to note as well, on your story, bringing your people to Harness, that was one thing that impressed me was the people that had trust in you and followed you are not only all still here, but seeing yours in Harness praises. And that speaks volumes as well.
Yeah, nothing feels better than to have people in the best situations they've ever been in. I mean, we go to summits and I choke up, man. It's
yeah, you do.
from a
Bit of a crier.
You're a little bit of a crier.
bit of a crier.
Last time it was one specific trigger. Every time Joe DeMarco's name was mentioned, it was waterfalls.
Boom.
Hey, he's a good one to cry over.
I can't wait till my day comes. He's like, Hunter, man. I'll be like, I made it. I'm a few years off, but it's on my vision board. Bo crying.
You got a picture of it? Yeah, the Jordan picture, the Hall of Fame one.
That's right.
It is.
No, man, it's
Except you could get it of Bo at every summit.
yeah. But it's been crazy, man, and we're at a point right now where we're really starting to impact more and more people. We have the Furries of the world and people who are not just coming in new to the business, seeing a ton of success. And I feel like the foundation we have laid, hasn't deviated from where we want to go. I think that, and I want to highlight something as well. When I first came in, it was already way more, and it really didn't matter. I came from a company that didn't install, so you can offer me a $2 red line. It doesn't matter if it never hits the roof. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't care. I think I originally came on at $290 or something, and I was so happy with it, and I actually got paid. Like, stuff was going to the roof. Like, I had no reason to complain. It was the most per kilowatt I've ever made. I started at $52.50 a panel with Solar City, and $250, $300 on the East Coast. So like, I was happy, and I think it's important, like, not to get super greedy. I think here, especially in California, like, what's the difference between 1,000, 1,200 kilowatt? It's just so insane, in some of these cases. And I always made it a point when I first came into the companies, I want Dan to be healthy. Not only did I want my downline to make money, and I obviously wanted to make money, but I never asked him for a reduction. I never fleeced him, while everybody else, all these other co-managers, were trying to get a better deal, trying to work off more. I was the exact opposite. I wanted to make sure that I was the healthiest office that Dan had. I wanted to bring food to the table,
I think the best way to earn more compensation is to add value, not ask for more compensation.
Right.
I've never done that in my life. As value, compensation always trails value.
Yeah, and anybody working in any organization, ours included, you want better financials, add more value. Like, we are always looking for leaders. We are always looking for team players.
We want to pay people.
We want to pay.
Actually, there was one moment. This is a great moment for Bo. There was one moment when he was elevated to a VP status where he had a chance to ask for more for himself, and he's like, you know what? Instead, let's just create office budgets. Let's invest it back into the teams. Let's put it back into the company. Every manager can play with that and incentivize the team. He saw the big picture of not putting that into his pocket, but putting it back into the manager's pockets and giving them the reason to grow and the ability to grow. And I thought that was such a cool move.
The value was there, right? You want to add value to people adding value or add compensation. So.
I mean, he knew it would come back to him in the end anyway, but in such a, again, he sees the big picture.
It's all reciprocal, right? It all comes back if we're adding compensation based on value. That's the point of it, right?
It's the faith, and I truly believe if you trust the people that are above you, that's really what it boils down to.
And you shouldn't work someplace where you don't.
For sure. If anybody out there who give us a call if you don't trust your DM or even your
hit the subscribe button.
Even your
subscribe.
Subscribe.
Phone is buzzing right now. Whoops.
If you do trust the people, and if you don't, again, I wouldn't go too far down that road, regardless of how much, because with the changes in the industry and things that are happening, there's no guarantees in this business, and if you don't trust them now, like when a bunch of money is involved, or if there's opportunity to make big moves in the industry, what's the odds of them giving it to you? But when you do trust somebody and they are actively pouring value into you, like, support them, and I said, I stayed at my red line as long as I could, and I gave as much as I could, back to Dan. So when Dan had an opportunity, when there was people or reps that were nomads or needed a home, he continued to put people in my downline. He helped me grow because I was helping him grow. He looked across and said, who's adding the most value to their people first and foremost? And as a smart business owner, what's the healthiest for the business? And that really helped. I was new to California. It really helped propagate me, and because I was focused on adding value and making sure Dan was healthy, make sure the company is healthy. And even we've gotten conversations, recently, I want to make sure I work for a healthy company. Last thing I want to do is siphon out as much, as I can, and the whole car stops. You know what I'm saying?
By definition, if you trust leadership in any position, whether this be a rep trusting a DM or a DM trusting regional, so on and so forth, if you trust leadership and you add value, then by default, that indicates that your compensation will match your value because you trust them to take care of you.
To reciprocate when necessary.
Absolutely. So, in order to wrap this thing, I think we have to ask one important question that I just came to mind, and I want to ask everybody to give everybody a chance to answer. So, Hunter, if you could, add or double down on anything that we have right now at the end of this journey, right? Whether it be 5 or 10 years or whatever Harness's full run is, 20 years maybe, we don't know, right? But if you could add something we either don't have now or double down and even increase something, by 100, 200, 300% that we do have now as far as value or something that we do, what would that look like for you in a perfect world?
I'm a broken record, but I want Harness to be known in the industry as the home for the best people in the industry.
The highest quality.
Highest quality. I want to, and it is actually something that I focus on heavily to, don't want to say recruit, attract, bring in, and bless those type of individuals, the good people, the people that we speak about, the ones that have the best interests of others at heart, those kind of leaders, those kind of reps. I want them here. They deserve to be here. And it's personally my mission to double down 100-300% on finding those individuals and providing and blessing their lives with this opportunity, which I know it will. So
Love that.
yeah, that's me. Good people, bring in all the good people.
Love it.
More Stoke.
Yeah, no, man, I want to more grounding and more contribution. I want to do as much as I can to make sure that people aren't just fulfilled financially and growth-wise here, but spiritually, by whatever that means to each individual, financial freedom. And I think with that comes the other yang, which is more charitable, more giving to our communities, to the people around us. I want to make sure that we never lose sight of our humility and how important everybody in the channel is, from permit runner to installer to customer. I just think that's a lot of responsibility, and I think that I want to make sure that we not only don't lose focus as we continue to grow and expand and do more, but we hone in and as our impact and our footprint grows as a company and our financials grow as a company, I want to make sure that our contributions follow that, and we're leading by example on and off the field.
Beautiful. Love that.
Those are great answers. Tough to follow. You're going to answer too, right, after this? Got to get you, man. So I spoke actually at a SoCal Summit about David Buckner, a man who transformed my life, and he aligned with me on a lot of different things in terms of his upbringing. Had a dad that wasn't present and a bunch of stuff like that. Anyway, so what I got from him was he wanted to be a transitional character. In other words, he wanted to change his generational pattern. He had a dad and a grandpa and all that stuff that kind of just did things that weren't what he wanted to do. And my personal goal has been the same for my life. And as I've attained that now, I feel it behooves me. It's a responsibility that weighs on me daily to try to share how I did that, and to create a platform and an environment where more people can do that. So my whole mission with this company is to try to create something where it attracts the right people in, like Hunter said, gives them the right skill set and the right stoke level, as Bo has mentioned, and creates transformational characters. They can be a generational break of that chain that can bind us sometimes, and elevate the generations that follow them. That's really my whole mission.
So cool.
I love that.
So cool. The kids, the grandkids, one good decision.
You got to think of that impact
at some point. That's when we're worm food, man. The fact that those kind of intentions.
I just got that.
I'm about to say something prophetic here.
Prophetic. You went from worm food to prophetic.
All right, let him get out the
Prophetic as in we're all going to die? Yeah, I think I know that.
I mean, in intentionality and thinking things into existence is real, 100%. And just us talking about it now and focusing on it and putting our intentions and our words and our focus towards this throughout from now until the day that we expire could reverberate and continue to, people we don't know who aren't born yet, who haven't even been thought of yet, could see the benefits of this conversation. Just that kind of stuff gives me the goosebumps.
And to cap off that entire thought, that is part of our secret sauce. The belief that we have as an executive team and where we can go with this thing is paramount. And I don't think reps ask their leaders enough, like, how much do you believe in this thing and tell me why? What's your confidence level that we're going to get to X level? I mean, to do exactly what I just said, to create transformational characters is no small task.
I don't think leaders ask their reps that enough either.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Powerful.
So Owen, what do you think?
All right, my answer is I'm all about fulfilling potential, right? And that would have been my answer before I came to Harness. Like when I started Olympus, that probably would have been my answer, is just have as many possible people as I can in the company that fulfill their max potential. So it's still partially that, but Steve Wozniak said in a presentation one time, they asked him what his favorite part about Apple was. And I think he pointed to an area on the map. And he said, yeah, in this neighborhood, the minimum house sells for $5 million. And every person or every house in this neighborhood is owned by an Apple employee. And that's the coolest thing on the planet. So that kind of fulfills the potential side, right? So I want to figure out how we can possibly bring as many good people, as we talked about. One of our biggest values is our good people. I want to max out the amount of good people we can have that actually reach their potential, but I want to add something to it that I've learned throughout this Harness experience. And then I really started learning a while back, but that's increased and enhanced my vision, so to speak, because I want to have all that with those people hitting their max potential. I think that's beautiful, but I want those people to be infused and a tight-knit family and have relationships that extend far past the life of whatever we're doing now, whatever the company does now, while we're worm food. I want our best people's relationships and friendships and business partnerships to extend to generations to come.
Amen.
I want our grandkids to be working together, doing something beautiful. Maybe it's obviously, could potentially not be solar at that point, but maybe whatever they're doing, they're still representing and driving home the values and the principles and the wins that we share now on a day-to-day basis. And I think that would be just an even deeper level of that generational change that I know we're all looking to create for our families. I think that would be a beautiful, beautiful thing.
That's a good one. I got the good feel. Stoke tanks overflowing, boys.
Let's cap it on that. Well, hey, I love you guys. Excited about this year is incredible, right? This year is absolutely incredible. Cannot wait to see what 2022 represents, and let's go get it and win the day, as we always say.
Can't wait to talk to you on episode 5. We're gonna have some big stuff for you.
Ooh, 5 is gonna be good.